talking about violent crime in urban centers, beginning with Chicago. Interesting exchange by two rappers on the topic, specifically as it pertains to Chicago. A rapper who goes by Savage21 discussing his solution to violence in Chicago on a podcast with another rapper who goes by Big Bank. Now, this is not my preferred vocabulary, but the sentiment is actually quite interesting. Take a listen.
I think everybody just need to leave the violence alone.
I agree with that, but I feel like it takes...
But they need to build a city called Crash Out City. And if your ass is so gangster and you so crazy, especially the rappers, I'm mainly talking to the rappers who act like, you got niggas who, yeah, I rap, but I don't be on the internet just like overly just saying about niggas and this and like that. So the niggas who overly just be like acting like they just ready to crash out, Trump need to make a motherfucking city for these niggas. I know we got some land somewhere in America that ain't nobody using, where they test bombs and that. We're gonna call this Crash Out City.
They got it.
What?
It's called Slab City. No laws there. Literally.
In America?
Look it up on YouTube, bro.
Yeah.
They live there.
It's still federal laws.
Yeah.
Federal laws around the whole land. No, we talking about federally. Trump. Donald J. Trump. He got down, build, he make this city, name this city, Crash Out City. Sending the National Guard everywhere. Crash Out City. We're gonna come pick all y'all niggas up. Ooh, y'all wanna crash and y'all hate y'all ops that bad or y'all just hate the world that bad. We're gonna pick all y'all up, put y'all on the plane, and we're gonna fly y'all to Crash Out City. When you get there, this like Call of Duty. It's AR. No, that's serious. You go in the house, there's a gun right there. You gotta go find the clip, find the bullets, and you come outside. Yeah, everybody just crash. For real. Purge. And don't nobody go to jail. Whoever survives, survive. You go home.
Yeah, so a little bit of Hunger Games approach there. And, I think the point of that is not to take that proposal seriously, but the point is to say, look, we don't want repeat violent offenders in our neighborhoods any more than anybody else does, which we know to be true. So why can't we get it done? Well, this is the long-running conversation we have about the criminal justice system in Cook County and Chicagoland more generally. Somebody who is also interested in this matter of reducing the incidence of violent crime, particularly in Chicago, is Chicago Bears great Matt Forte, of course, legendary running back for the Bears and the Jets, co-host of the Sports Spectrum podcast, founder of the What's Your Forte Foundation. We've spoken with him about that before. And he's got a new book, Stay in the Game, Making the Most of Every Season. Stay in the Game, Matt Forte's new book. Matt Forte, thank you for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a little bit of an aggressive and perhaps a facetious proposal, but Crash Out City, what do you think?
Yeah, that's one of the most ignorant things I've probably heard in a long time. There's no sanctity of life when you talk about stuff like that. It may sound like a solution, but that doesn't change the heart behind anybody who, is involved in that world or in violence or drugs and different things like that. But the accountability has to take place first with the people who perpetuate it through the music. Like I love rap music, but I listen to Christian rap. Mm-hmm. And the guys on the podcast, especially 21 Savage, is like what you talk about in the music is Crash Out City. Like you're talking about these things, and then young kids love it and they listen to it, and subtly or unconsciously, those words seep in through the mind and into the heart. And so you have to be held accountable for the words that you speak, because it's perpetuating the violence against your own people in the black and brown neighborhoods. So creating some kind of Crash Out City makes absolutely no sense. because you're just going to send people there to just kill each other because they're doing that in the streets anyway? How about we try something that's more humane, something that is more of a that gets to the root issue instead of the fruit issue?
Yeah, of course you're right about that, but doesn't it speak to a certain sort of exasperation and hopelessness that, I mean, you would even joke about something like that? I mean, that seems to be the problem, is that sort of the resting position of all parties concerned is the acceptance of the status quo, and you don't. It's difficult to see, actually. I mean, there are green shoots, there are examples where this is happening, but you just don't see the sort of change in attitude. You mentioned the word sort of accountability. You don't tend to see a change in mentality that permeates a particular neighborhood or neighborhoods that's required.
Yeah, there is a sense of hopelessness to those who are trapped in a cycle and don't see a way out. But there is a way out, and there's a way to, I guess, get to people that's deeper than just, through music and different things like that. I think people are desperate for truth. People are desperate for the Spirit of God in their lives. But when you don't have that, then you come up with silly ideas like Crash Out City or something like that, where that it logically makes sense to you because you've only lived in that world, or you lived that life, and you don't necessarily have the empathy within you or the wisdom and knowledge that God can give you in order to come up with better ideas to better attack a situation like that, because violence has been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah, right.
It's something that is prevalent everywhere, but that doesn't mean that we just lose all hope and say, yeah, just give everybody guns and then just go and do away with each other, because we'll put them there because those are the bad people. When it comes really down to it, we're all filthy and in different ways, but we need the Spirit of God in our lives and in this world and in this country desperately, and the truth of the Word of God to people to abide by, because that's the only thing that really can change a heart. And we're not talking about behavioral modification. We want the heart transformation within it, so that you're not just being a good human being and giving back to the community or serving because you have to, or something that you need to do to be a good person. It's because you want to. You're so gracious that God has given you a life to steward that you want to have that rub off on other people.
So, growing up in Slidell, Louisiana, where did you get this understanding of the world, of the human condition, of your relationship to God? Who mentored you?
My mother and father. My grandfather's a pastor from Texas, and my mom and dad always had me in Sunday school and in church. But I would say it came through experiences in life as well, because even though I was in Sunday school and in church, I really didn't learn anything throughout those years of growing up, even into adulthood. And it wasn't really till I made the professional football league in the NFL, when I got drafted, that you start to learn these things through experience, where there's a lot of temptation of drugs, alcohol, and money, and sex, and women, and cars, clothes, jewelry, all this stuff that you realize is empty. It's an empty life. Even the fame part, where people, idolize you because of what you do on the field. But at some point, that's going to end. And then if your identity is wrapped in that, then you realize that when that's over, then what else is there to do? So there has to be more to life. It has to be more to you as a person than just athletics or fame or sport, right? So I began to learn that, and my dad would always tell me that, football is not the end-all, be-all. Get your education, make sure you get your degree, make sure you read books and understand, and all this stuff that is beyond being a lifelong learner is part of being a good leader in the world as well. So I learned that through them, but also experiences, because I grew up in a mixed income neighborhood. You had different types of people all in it, and I went to school in the same reflect. But then I've been able to know how to function in all white spaces, and I've been able to function in all black spaces. And I've come into contact with people growing up in South Louisiana that were, red hot, white hot racists. And I've been in, contact with people who have taken me into their homes and love, me just because of who I am. And, those experiences teach you that it's deeper than skin color, it's deeper than race or the neighborhood you grow in. It's honestly a heart transformation issue that we have in this world. And, I was able to learn that by just growing and being through and always having a foundation of God in my life, but also seeing the different areas. I mean, when I was and I write about this in my book, Stay in the Game, when I was a freshman at Tulane after my freshman year, one of my teammates who was a senior who was about to possibly make the NFL was murdered by senseless gun violence, jealous boyfriend. And that was the first time I had ever had someone close to me really like that to be taken, almost like a brother, your teammate like that you see every day in the locker room. Mm-hmm. And I saw what violence does and what it takes away, not just from that person, but from the entire family unit, his mom. And he had 2 kids at the time, so his kids, and they won't be able to grow up with a father. And man, it was devastating to me, and it always stuck with me throughout Tulane and in New Orleans and playing in college. And then when I got to Chicago by playing in the NFL, I realized that God placed me here for a bigger reason than just running the football and scoring touchdowns, and it was to impact the city of Chicago in a way that's positive. Where I can help the youth to understand that no matter where you grow up, whether it's the South Side, West Side, or maybe you're on the North Side, but there's a different way of life that you don't have to indulge in the foolishness or the violence.
And the thing you said too about the crowd cheering is not going to last forever. I mean, you retired you were 32. Yep. And this, the average career in the NFL is 3 years. So obviously we see a lot of the stars that go on to commercial success or broadcasting success, but there are hundreds, thousands more that just sort of disappear, at least disappear from the public eye. And I just wonder, when you're retiring in your 20s or 30s from football, whether you chose to or, injuries and so forth, like, do you stay in touch with those guys to help provide constructive paths, even if they're financially secure, and some of them are not, but even of the ones that are, where they can get into something that gives meaning to their daily lives the way that you have with your foundational work and the podcast and so forth?
Yeah, that's part of my why and part of my life's work that God has given me the ability to do and the clarity of mind to understand that that's the group of people I need to impact as well, not just, through my foundation in Chicago, but the whole entire, people who are coming after me that are coming up after me in the NFL, because me and my wife, we work with PAO, Pro Athletes Outreach Ministry, which is a ministry geared towards only pro athletes, whether it be NBA, NFL, MLB, or an NHL. And it's starting to spread globally through soccer and the international sports. And our goal is to impact the statistics that you hear when guys retire of being 85% getting divorced and 80+% going broke 3 years out of retirement. And, God has blessed us too much to take all of the platform and, the financial freedom that you get from playing sports and entertainment to just blow it all away or actually become worse off or continue generational curses like, divorce and fatherlessness in homes. So that is part of the group that I am definitely here to impact. And it's a way that we talk about it and have great speakers and people who from experience have played the game for long periods of time and have been married 20, 30, 40 years. So they're a great example of the success that you can have within the sport and after the game is over. That's part of the subtitle of my book of how to be successful in every season of life, because, I played football for 10 years in the NFL speaking, but 25 years total. And if you've done that your entire life, I'm only 40. That's more than half of my life. I've done that. And if you've only done that, when you finish and you retire, sometimes a lot of times guys have a hard time figuring out what's next because they feel like they don't have any other skills or they can't do anything else. But the key thing is to understand that athletics and sports really does, especially at a high level, teach you the discipline, the sacrifice, and the hard work that you need in any facet of life or any season of life. There's a Bible scripture in Ecclesiastes that says, eternity is set in the heart of man. And what that means is that we all seek something eternal in our heart, but we try to fill it with all the things that are temporal. Like I mentioned earlier with the money, cars, and clothes, and all the flashy things and fame, but all of those things end up dying off. So we have to have this foundation of God in our life and the Spirit of God within us to be able to fight the temptations of the flesh, but then also to live a life and have clarity of purpose in life. If you're living a life without purpose, it's not going to be long before you just end up doing things because you feel like that's what you should be doing, and you go down the wrong path in the wrong lane.
What's your foundation? What's your Forte Foundation? What's your ForteFoundation.org? So, is there some crossover there when you're talking about the sort of ministry you do with professional athletes, as well as the ministry and the programs you do with young people to try to steer them away from destructive behavior like violence in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to expose them to different lines of professions. I realize that young people and kids aren't all sports fans, and especially being retired 8 years, a lot of them don't really even know who I am. Their parents might know,
right?
But a lot of them they don't really understand. And then it's funny, they look at YouTube and then they come back like, oh man, that's who you are. But we want to expose them to many different professions because if we look at the statistics and be honest, most people are not going to be professional athletes. I think making the NFL from youth football all the way up, I think it's less than 0.5% or something like that actually make it. You have a better chance of winning the lottery. So we have to, show them and expose them to different things, and that's what we do with the foundation. I mean, this past summer we took them horseback riding and showed them how to groom a horse and how it works that a large, giant animal like a horse can actually be, really gentle and be a therapeutic experience. So, you're talking about kids that live in the inner city, have never been out in the nature, and you bring them out there by a 2,000-3,000 pound horse and in nature and stuff, and they understand that even God's creation like that, it will allow you to have some peace and some, tranquility within your life. So we've taken them behind news stations to see that you don't have to be the news anchor or the person in front of the camera. There's a lot of people who produce the shows or work the camera, and you can have all of these type of career paths that's, different than the lane that you may think, because a lot of kids see on social media what's the highlighted life. They want the curated
influencer. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that makes them look important and popular because everybody wants to be seen. But if you really know who you are and you know your purpose in life, which you're going to be passionate about, a lot of times you can humble yourself and say, you know what, I don't have to be famous or an influencer or the most popular person. I'm impacting people in my own way or in my own lane, and those people who I impact in a positive way will always remember that. And I always kept that in the forefront of my mind as well. It's like, people are going to forget about the touchdowns and all this stuff, and that's in the past. That's on the highlight reel on YouTube and on the shelf. But people will always remember if you impact them positively in a way that really helps them either internally or with something that's materialistic, whether it be food or clothing or money. So providing kids with a way that gives them a pathway of life where they can provide for themselves, build a life, build a family, is something that's beyond just doing something to say, hey, be a good person.
All right, we're going to remember the touchdowns too, though, Matt. We're going to be running for the Bears, so we're going to remember that too. And speaking of which, I can't let you go without offering a prognostication on the surprising Bears team this year and how far you think they can go.
Yeah, I am impressed by how they have continued to grow each and every week. Started off with an 0-2 slide where they've grown to be where they're growing confidence each and every week. I think Ben Johnson is doing a great job of preparing the whole squad for each and every week, and I'm excited for this coming week because they went from the number 1 seed to 7, and then 1 week they went from 7 to 2, and with a Green Bay loss. And so this is a big game coming up to where it's at home, and it was a close game last week too. So I think that they can at home get the advantage and be able to beat Green Bay and hopefully Detroit too at the end of the year and be able to have that number 1 seed.
He is Matt Forte, of course, legendary running back for the Bears and Jets, co-host of the Sports Spectrum podcast at sportsspectrum.com, founder of the What's Your Forte Foundation that we were discussing, what'syourfortefoundation.org, and his new book, Stay in the Game, Making the Most of Every Season. Again, Stay in the Game is the name of Matt Forte's new book. Matt, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate your time. Merry Christmas.
All right. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you guys.
And Matt Forte joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
You stink.
I think you're going to have a good Christmas, all right?
You smell like beef and cheese. You don't smell like Santa.
On AM 560. The Answer.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. Pain just doesn't hurt your body. It steals your life. I know because I've seen it with people I care about, and maybe you're dealing with it right now. Here's what I love about Dr. Ashley Caravelli and